Hello and welcome to this FPL set piece takers video with me, Holly Shand. In this video I'll be going through the set piece takers table, showing you all the players that are on penalties, corners, direct and indirect free kicks, before pointing out some top players who can provide consistency across all dead ball situations. If you are new around here, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. You will see that the background has changed behind me. I've moved house this week, so in my new office, so hopefully everything is working all right. Let's get into it. Starting off then with the set piece takers table. I have to caveat this, I've created this table early into pre-season. I'm recording this video on the 22nd of July, so things can change and there are certain things that we are hoping could change during pre-season. So for example, at Arsenal, we know that Martinelli is on penalties ahead of Saka. We saw that in game week 38 of last season, but we don't know whether Gabriel Jesus could infiltrate that spot kick takers lineup at Arsenal and potentially be number one. He's the highest owned player of the game at the time of recording, so that will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. So I will try and keep this updated and share it with you through my Twitter and Instagram channels at Holly Shand. Another player that we're hoping could be on penalties is Erling Haaland. Mahrez is currently first choice at Manchester City, although he doesn't always start, so that does present a little bit of a problem. We have seen other players get involved in spot kicks at Manchester City, but you would imagine coming in as the big new number 9 in this Man City lineup with a great penalty record in the Bundesliga with Dortmund, you would assume that Haaland would be on penalties for Manchester City, but that's something that we need to see what happens in pre-season before we can make any decision. Now there's certainly other clubs that we need to keep an eye on. For example, Leeds United have sold Rafinha in this transfer window, so he was dominant across the set pieces, so we don't know how that's going to shake out in this Leeds United lineup. Currently we've only really seen Forshaw, Dallas and Harrison, but you know, Forshaw doesn't really get in the team for free kicks and corners. Dallas is injured, so that only leaves Harrison, so that's something to keep an eye on during pre-season for Leeds United. Some other things to note, we've seen Zaha on penalties at Crystal Palace. He's not really been involved too much in pre-season with a little bit of an injury, so that's something to keep an eye on as well. And could we see Perisic on some set pieces if he becomes a consistent starter at Spurs? Now, another player who's quite a big favourite in FPL at the moment is Andreas Pereira, who has moved from Manchester United to Fulham in this transfer window, and we have seen already him take a corner in pre-season, so that's going to be an interesting one as well for a 4.5 million midfielder to be in attacking positions and to be on some set pieces makes him a must-have for our FPL teams. Having a look at some specific options now then, I really like the look of Kieran Trippier at Newcastle United. They've obviously strengthened in the transfer window and going to be key contenders this season, especially how we've seen their form under Eddie Howe since he took over. But Trippier is on corners, direct free kicks and indirect free kicks for Newcastle United. So to get that from a defender, there aren't many defenders in the game that are consistently on set pieces. We know Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, at Liverpool, but looking more at budget options, Trippier could be a very good one. The only problem is he was injured for quite a large portion of last season, so we didn't really get to see him fulfil his true potential. However, we did see him score a lovely free kick against Everton last season. He scored 2 goals in 429 minutes of Premier League action, so scale that up, it could be a huge season ahead for Trippier, and that's something to keep an eye on. And they've got a nice run of opening fixtures as well, so they've faced 2 promoted teams in their first 8 games, so you could consider him as part of a defensive rotation as well, so that you can avoid his trickier fixtures, which come in game week 3 against Manchester City and game week 5 against Liverpool. Now, I have to mention Kevin De Bruyne. He's been going under the radar for a lot of fantasy managers, but he has looked impressive in pre-season. Great goal scoring, and he's dominant on set pieces for Manchester City. We see him on corners, free kicks and indirect free kicks. So it's going to be interesting to see how him and Haaland link up. I think we've seen glimmers of that already, but he could be the best fantasy option to start the season because of his set-piece delivery. I mean, in terms of the last 3 seasons where he's played over 2,500 minutes, he's accumulated 23, 18 and 21 assists respectively. He was a bit lower on that tally last season. However, I do think a lot of that came down to City's finishing rather than the quality of Kevin De Bruyne's balls. And when you've got a target man like Haaland in the box, it can certainly provide us with a lot of potential for attacking returns from dead ball situations. We have to note Manchester City have fantastic fixtures to start the season, including 2 home games against promoted sides in Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. One player going under the radar at the moment is Manchester United's Bruno Fernandes, who we've seen be dominant across set pieces during his time in Manchester. He has had penalties wrestled away from him by Cristiano Ronaldo, but there is interest there in whether Ronaldo moves away in the transfer window, which could make Bruno Fernandes an even more appealing fantasy option. However, there is a little bit of a cloud there in Christian Eriksen, who has signed for Manchester United as well. Both quality players in terms of their dead ball delivery. So that could somehow diminish Bruno Fernandes' output. But in terms of his pedigree in the Premier League, he scored 13 of his 16 penalties, and in 2.5 seasons at Manchester United, he's had 36 goals and 29 assists. So that's with Manchester United struggling last season. If Ten Hag can improve this Manchester United attack, I can only see higher returns for Bruno Fernandes, and he's a full 2 million cheaper than last season. And it's going to be a massive differential for our game week 1 team. So he's just in about 3.5% of fantasy squads at the moment, but lovely fixtures against Brighton, Brentford and Southampton as part of their opening 4 games. He could be one to watch and certainly worth the risk. Now, probably the biggest differential of this pre-season, and another player that dominates set pieces in terms of free kicks, corners, indirect free kicks as well, is Leicester's James Maddison. He should be a serious consideration for our squad. In that 8 million midfielder price bracket, it is quite saturated. However, Leicester are really impressive at the end of last season. They haven't got Europe this season. Remember, in their final 4 fixtures of last season, they scored 13 goals and Maddison was involved in over half of them with 4 goals and 3 assists. And you know, it's going to be a huge change for Leicester this season with no European games. Remember, they got all the way to the Europa Conference League semi-final stage, so that had, you know, a big effect on their season. They had a lot of injuries. However, I think they're going to be a much tighter bunch this season, and Maddison is just at the heart of everything. So he had his best ever fantasy season last season. He went under the radar a little bit, 23 attacking returns. Only 4 players managed to get more attacking returns than Maddison last season. If you don't believe me, check it, because I was surprised when I saw it as well. So he could easily be one of the best value midfielders in the game. And when you're looking at your 8 million price bracket for your midfielders in your FPL squad, James Maddison, have a little think, should he be in there? Now, the final dead ball delivery guy I've picked out, it has to be the GOAT, James Ward-Prowse. He is the main man at Southampton. He's the captain. He's on penalties, he's on corners, he's on indirect free kicks, he's on direct free kicks. And let me tell you, he is the best free kick taker in the Premier League, if not further apart than just the Premier League itself. So I know Southampton aren't the most attractive fantasy squad to invest in, but you could get James Ward-Prowse in your team at the start of the season, let him tick over, and he will deliver you 150 points by the end of the season for 6.5 million. It is something that we must consider. He is famous for his free kicks, and his dead ball from the penalty spot is almost just as good. 11 of 14 spot kicks he's converted in the Premier League, including all of last 5. He is the talisman at Southampton, and in terms of the fantasy points scored, he is the one to go for out of Southampton if you are looking to invest. And he's a mainstay in that lineup. He's been their captain the last 2 seasons, and he's finished each of the last 2 seasons with 15 attacking returns. So he could be the best value midfielder in the game based on his current price and the amount of fantasy points he scored last season. I hope you found this video useful. I hope you enjoy my new surroundings as well. Hopefully, from a technical aspect, everything is working really well. I need to get a bit more furniture in here, I think, because it is a little bit echoey, but hopefully I can sort that out over the coming weeks. Maybe get an upgrade on the camera as well. But if you have enjoyed this one, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments which of these set piece takers you've got your eye on for your game week 1 squads, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Bye for now.